So I had to put my camera in a mount. So we're going to clear away all this stuff. We're going to get some measurements off of these. Give you an idea. So that's 2 1/16 wide. That's 1.25 high, 1 inch 254. It can be 250, 254, whatever. So that's 83 thousandths. Then I had to put a little cutout on this one because when you put the arduino in there, you need a little extra room. So that's about 400 wide. It's not very deep at all. About 70, 80 thousandths deep for this cutout. And the location of these two screws, they match the spacing of this guy, which is these holes here. Now this one piece goes on one side, then this other piece goes on the other side. Now this one's got a cutout for the heat sink, give you a little room for the heat sink. Now the the measurements of both of these are the same. They're basically identical parts. So that's a 941. That could be anything because that's just a radius, but this is a 5/8 hole. And the width I got on these is 360. It could be 370, 3/8. Well, this one's 348. 360. No, it's 360. Could be 375. Just thin it down to whatever you need. Now this one got a little cutout on it. So that goes almost to the screws. It's about 133 deep. Now what that's for is that these solder pieces that are on here, that's clearance for those. So when this mounts on there, these solder pieces fit inside that groove. Now when I assemble this thing, you'll be able to see it a lot better. I mean, just kind of going through this right now because it's still apart. And it's a lot easier when it's still apart. So let me take this one off real quick and capture a couple measurements off of this one. These are 632 screws I use, little cap screws. So this one here fits on this side. And this one here fits on this side. And this is basically your standoffs. They sit inside the box. So the outside dimensions on both of them are the same. We'll go over that again. So that's a 2 1/16. That's 1 inch 258. That could be inch 250, 256, somewhere around there. Now this cutout, this guy here is 522 wide. And 194 deep. And the width on this guy is 353. And of course this is probably the same. 940 with a 5/8 hole. And the location of the screws, like I said, match that guy. They go into there. Now what I also did was that when I was watching his video, he was trying to solder and this part was moving around. I don't know if you noticed that. I mean, I didn't want my part to move around when I start soldering this thing. So what I did was I just took aluminum plate and I got the 4 holes where the same 4-hole pattern as these 4 holes here. And at first I was going to have some kind of cutout thing going on here where this thing grabbed it and this and that and all kinds of crazy stuff. And so I put the 4 holes in there. I put the screws in there and I let the screws protrude about 50-60 thousandths. I didn't tighten them. I mean, they're still loose. I can hand turn them. But I let the screws go in there, and what happens is when you put that down, the screws act like little points and it keeps it from moving around. So, I mean, it still moves because there's really nothing there. But if you take a weight, put it on top of there, that thing's nice and solid now, so it doesn't move, and it's a good height because when you're trying to work with it, it's not too high to where your hands have to be up real high. It's down nice and low to where, you know, you can get your soldering gun and your wire and you can work it. So that worked out really well. Now the thing with this, when you do the solder this, now this side on top, if you remember, the wires go through. I think it's, I don't have it on me right now, but there's 3 wires that go in here, and then these switches are on the bottom here. And they get a lot of wires soldered to them. Okay, these are the switches. You got your select, your left, up, down, right, and left. Now these switches is the same as this, upside down, without this guy on top. So these switches here are the same as this, without this piece on top. Now the thing with these switches is you have to wire it in a cross pattern, because these switches, when they're mounted in this panel, are not like regular switches. From what I understand, when you use these switches, they give off different frequencies. So it's not like a light switch or any switch where it just goes, you know, they're on and off. They're not on their own separate circuit. They're in series somehow. And when you push a switch, it gives off like a frequency. Then when you push another switch, it's a different frequency. So that's how it works here. So they have to be wired from one side to the other. So how they're wired is they're wired from this one. Okay, this is the select switch, which is on the outside. You see the select switch here is the same as this switch, upside down. So how they're wired is you go from this one to here, and then the four solder joints is one switch. So you go from this one to that one. Then on this second four, you go from this one to that one. You're going diagonal. And then there's a switch up here. There's two switches here. So you go from this one to that one, and this one to that one, this one to that one. This is 4. So this is one switch. And then this switch here, you go from this one to the one inside. So that's, when he originally wired it, he didn't wire the reset, which is this one, because he didn't have a reset button. But later on, when he did it the second time, he added the reset button. So like I said, I put mine on top of the box, because when you're in the program and you want to change the program, if you didn't have the reset button, you'd have to turn the program off and then turn it back on. So by putting the reset button in there, you don't have to turn it off and on. It just goes back to the beginning. So that's why he went with the bigger box. Now I don't know where he got this box, because I didn't see any information on it. But like I said, if you go to My Ford Boy, the arduino wiring, you'll see the original box with the original switches, with all the original stuff you can purchase, which is what I did. Now, as far as the putting the program in the arduino, I thought it'd be really hard, but it turned out to be really easy, because I went to this SparkFun, learnsparkfun.com, tutorials installing Arduino. And this is the sheet I printed off of there. And you see up here at the top, and it walks you through it. I printed this out so I could go through it while I was doing it, and turned out to be really easy. In fact, it was so easy that I had it loaded before I even knew it. So I was really worried about that, but it turned out great. All right. Bye.